This one, Eskom recently provided insights into its operational performance and, importantly, the outlook for the upcoming winter months. In a recent media briefing, the power utility expressed optimism, aiming to navigate the colder season without resorting to electricity cuts. CEO of Eskom, Dan Morikani, said that if unplanned outages remained below 13,000 megawatts, then South Africa shouldn't expect any outages this winter. But let's get some more insights on Eskom's current operational status, as well as strategies for keeping the lights on in the coming months. Here's Eric Shunmagum, who is the General Manager in the Office of the Group Executive for Generation. Eric, good morning. Thanks, as always, for joining us. Yesterday we were watching, and I remember just listening out for keywords. So stability, emergency reserves, no load shedding. Those are kind of the buzzwords I think most South Africans just listen to these briefings with. But after years of crisis, how confident are you that Eskom can truly keep the lights on this winter?
So Iman, I think, maybe just to reflect on the last year, yes, we did have 13 days, unfortunately, in the last 3 months. But, the year was basically filled with the 352 days of no load shedding. I think you're aware that we had 310 days of continuous no load shedding. And this can definitely, start off by saying attributed to people that focused on plant. We knew that we had a tough journey ahead. And we had put in a recovery plan. As you know, in March 2023, this recovery plan was approved. And we had support from government. I think the shareholders played a critical role. The new board played a critical role, as well as the new EXCO, in supporting this program. I think in terms of what the GCE has said, critical to the planning scenarios is if we do keep our load shedding, our unplanned breakdowns to below 13,000, based on our present plans, and you aware that in our winter season, we do cut back on our planned maintenance. We normally do our aggressive maintenance in summer. We should actually have a good winter. The one challenge that we've been having with, in especially the last 4 months, is the inclement weather. I think the challenge that we have is we know that quite a few households and industry are on rooftop PV, and on these days when we do have the cold fronts coming through, or when we do have lots of rain and cloudy weather, what we do see is, especially during the day, we see our supply, actually our demand increases. We get lesser support from our PV, and that's when there's a high dependence on Eskom to be this big battery. So the challenge is for us to keep the breakdowns to below 13,000, and below 13,000, we are comfortable that we should actually have a very good winter.
All right. Well, that's good news. As you say, improving from 329 days of load shedding to just 13. And I guess the naysayers will say maybe it was just like milder demand, weather, and so on, and questioning whether there's been real structural progress. But that structural progress, I think, was one of the things that was spoken about yesterday. And one of the questions we want to ask then is, how sustainable is diesel reduction, and what's the risk that the open cycle gas turbine use will surge again or peak under winter strain?
So Iman, once again, it's linked to the actual base load, which is predominantly coal. I think of good news this year is we've had the Coburg unit return, and we're now busy with the long-term, some of the changes based on the maintenance with Unit 2. Unit 2 should actually come in towards the end of July. I think of importance is we've synchronized Kusile S6. And lastly, we expect Medupi 4. You're aware for the last 4 years, this unit was damaged. It's planned to come in May. That will definitely help the Eskom system with an additional 2,500 megawatts. I think one of the key issues is Eskom's playing right now and has its dominance, but of importance is this new capacity that's required. And what I need to say from the Eskom side is that We'll always use diesel reserve in the case of emergency. It is there as a mix in our supply in terms of fuel sources. And traditionally, what happens is in winter, should we actually not meet the morning peak or the evening peak, we end up then using the diesel resources. So let's reflect on the journey. We are very aware when we were putting this recovery plan, we had to do some planned maintenance, and we consciously planned for the excessive use of diesel. And as you know, when you compare this year's savings to last year, there's over 17 billion rand savings, and we want to continue with that trend. So the intent is to use load shedding as the last resort. Then what we would do is we'd use diesel, and the objective is for the coal fleet or the Eskom fleet to actually perform.
How do you plan, though, because you've got other bogeys in the system, right? How do you plan to stop the sabotage, the cable theft, the illegal connections that continue to damage infrastructure and cost Eskom billions?
So, Iman, I think this is where it's critical to understand that we call this load reduction, and it is specifically used there to protect, people and plant. Right now, with the sort of increase with illegal connections as well as theft, we have to use load reduction as a tool to actually protect the equipment. Otherwise you'll see constant replacement. I think that's one of the challenges that we do see. On the supply side, we have an obligation. If you really look at what we've planned for and committed in terms of the energy action plan, we have actually recovered close to 6,000 megawatts in terms of unplanned breakdowns. And as you know, we initially planned on and focused on the 6 priority power stations. We extended that reach to 8 power stations. And I can say that we definitely have seen an improvement.
Yeah.
We have recovered over 6,000. And that's why we see majority of the days, where we don't have the load shedding. We must also, I think, admit that the renewable resources that have come in have played a role in supporting the system. And this is where we do have the challenges. And if you really reflect on what's happened over the last 3 months, we've definitely seen more rain, but I think over and above the more rain, we've seen excessive rains. And with the excessive rains, we then start to see, cloudy weather, and specifically in Gauteng, with cloudy weather, we see a drop in PV, which means then our units have to come in.
Okay.
Where the challenges do lie is when we have multiple unit trips, and we still have to focus on getting our reliability. I think that's the challenge that we have right now. So moving into the coming months, as we actually cut back now on planned maintenance, we will have to focus on getting our units more reliable.
Eric Shunmagum, thanks for talking to us this morning. Just not doubling down, but just reiterating, reinforcing some of the messaging from Eskom in that briefing yesterday around guarantees when it comes to load shedding. Thanks for your time. Eric Shunmagum is the General Manager at Eskom.